Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. We are so excited you are joining us for another Steftalks webinar. Today we have two of our very own Stefanini employees talking to us today. They'll be talking about building an autonomous platform for a digital enterprise. If you have any, we are recording this session, so if you have to jump out or you're coming in late, everything will be recorded and sent to you with some key takeaways that we want you to remember. We will do a Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions that you'd like to have answered, go ahead and drop them in the chat box and we will go through them at the end. So Sujoy and Sandy, would you like to get started now?
Perfect, Amy. All right, so I'll start the discussion with a little bit of a preface on what the topic is and what we will try to cover for the next 30-40 minutes. Then we'll get into the Q&A. The primary objective of today's discussion is a lot of our customers, when we are walking into their environments, they are having this recurrent problem of fundamentally being able to build an automation track. And the automation track or a roadmap is something which is very necessary in this day and age of digital transformations, which are going across the board for IT as well as for the business side. And that's pretty much become a necessity. So a lot of the customers end up asking us, how do we start? Is there a methodology which can be applied to build this automation track? How do we make SAP smart or intelligent? I think SAP is now trying to even market itself with the intelligent enterprise concept. It also stems from the same concept here. Is there a way to reduce the redundant work which happens in the enterprise? How do I be more nimble and agile because of the events which are happening right now with COVID and things like that with the pandemic? So any of those things fundamentally require you to have a platform which can think, and it can be autonomous, and autonomous in the perspective of being able to fix itself and also facilitate the business processes to the business users who are being impacted by those business processes in a mechanism where they can help themselves. So we like to call it as do it yourself. So basically in this day and age, a definition of a digital platform or a digital enterprise is one which can heal or fix itself when it is running across a problem, because it is smart enough to think, so to speak, for no better word, and then empower the business user to be able to do it himself, which is to provide that information necessary to help him perform his job function more effectively. So what we're going to try and talk about is basically the necessity of building a intelligent or autonomous digital enterprise. And the second aspect of it is, how do we build that innovation roadmap or journey, and what methodology that can be applied in a ERP environment, especially from a business and an IT perspective, to build a platform which is nimble and agile to meet the new digital age needs. All right, so going to the next slide here.
Can I interrupt for 1 second, Sandy? Could you just move your screen down? I can barely see your face.
Oh, my bad.
Perfect. Good, good. Yes, perfect. Thank you.
No problem, Amy. So they get to see me now. I'm hopefully looking good for Wednesday. All right, so this is primarily the premise with which we are starting the changing industry fundamental discussion. Is the industry fabric right now is kind of fundamentally being redefined radically, for no better word. Again, what I mean by that is fundamentally a lot of the workers have moved remote. A lot of the value creating functions which were supposed to be done within the office have also moved remote. So there is a fundamental necessity from a industry perspective where the applications with the business users are using to deliver and drive the business towards excellence have to fundamentally provide the information which they need at fingertips, because they do not have the luxury of being in an office environment right now. So it requires an application which is integrated. The value creating functions need to be requiring minimal human interaction. and the application needs to be able to think by itself. So all these are pretty much loaded statements, which is primarily being able to think as an application. It's driven based off AI based technologies, being able to provide the information which they need at a moment's notice, which is to be able to customize the information search or information availability by the persona of the business user, and how he would need to be able to perform his job role effectively considering minimal human interaction. And third one is a integrated environment, even if you are virtual. So considering the changing industry needs, and there is a fundamental necessity to build a intelligent enterprise which can be autonomous, where a lot of the low end activities can be automated, and the business users, etc., can fundamentally focus more on the value creation activities, which is your true USP as an organization. So the main traits of a digital enterprise that can function by itself is to be very agile and nimble. So a perfect example would be, is your supply chain responsive considering the stock outs, etc., which happened to COVID? Is it smart enough to be able to redefine its forecast, or pick another buyer, or pick up alternate proposals for delivering product? Can it handle the increased user loads necessary for managing your business process? The second one is customer centricity. This is a cliche word, but now it's even more necessary because you don't have face time with your customers anymore. So customers have to perceive that they are actually getting the best service possible. So what can be delivered from an application system perspective, that the customer perceives that their journey is highly customized to their environment, and as a service provider, you are there hand in hand with him through the journey. Then obviously the actionable insights. The actionable insights are more because of the technology capabilities now. So because of the new AI technology capabilities, etc., actionable insights which are at fingertips can now be provided. So it's no longer necessary when you are interacting with an SAP system or even any ERP system for it to follow a traditional IT support model. You can have the insight live. You can act on the insight live, because a definition of a new age user is self-service. It's basically those users primarily like to act on the intelligence if the intelligence is provided to them. A pretty good example is, we have a lot of incidents which starting to come through on chat channel as opposed to a traditional incident support channel. So where the business user will primarily try to get the issue resolved through chat as opposed to just calling in through a phone line. So these are the kind of things which are causing a trend change on a traditional IT support system environment, and obviously which in turn affects how an application is defined. And in order to evolve your support models as well as how you manage your day-to-day business, you need to be able to fundamentally be able to provide the business user with these three things, which is to be more nimble and agile to meet the changing needs, have very customer centric personalized user experience, and provide actionable insights live. So now, being a little bit more specific, so to speak, in the SAP environment, an intelligent enterprise strategy can be handled in a multitude of ways. It's quite a broad statement by its own definition. What we have noticed is we have kind of classified the SAP Intelligent Enterprise on where and all you can try and drive this excellence into these kind of, I would say, building blocks. I will go one by one because each one of the building blocks can be a webinar or a discussion on its own, and it requires an explicit focus on that specific track. Let's start with the first and foremost, the fundamental one, which is the business network, which is primarily what value proposition can you bring to the table from a business process perspective, from a process efficiency. So we have a customer who is right now having stock out situations, and they're having challenges with customer prioritization because of the product needs, which are due to extreme high demand, and the manufacturing cannot scale up to that demand. So this is like a business network need. So that is something along those lines. When you have business network needs along those lines, you need some kind of an intelligence to be able to provide that visibility 360 degrees across your organization, on either your, from where the fulfillment can come, how much profits are you making, is there an alternate product which can be ramped up on your product life cycle management and launched into the market, is there a higher profit you can make because you need to cover for expedited shipping costs, etc. So things along those lines require intelligent technologies. And an intelligent technology, when it is needing to be introduced in an application, it needs to redefine itself to an intelligent suite. And an intelligent suite in itself requires embedded analytics which are predictive in nature. So currently, most of the analytics is take the data dump, evaluate the data, and provide the information, so to speak. Right now, the expectation is the embedded analytics need to run live, and the information needs to be provided live. So being able to predict patterns, being able to suggest actions, and being able to take those actions with minimal human intervention based off your historical actions is what intelligent technologies are all about. This is one of the key aspects which will be driving the change across the board for SAP ecosystems in general. The next one is accessibility of the environment, right? Being able to scale, etc. So the cloud platform and or the necessary migration to the cloud provides you the ability to scale. Having microservices to be able, that way you can easily consume and make your services available in multitude of mediums, etc., is something which makes a cloud a very much a necessity now. Experience focused, I think we kind of talked about it before. All the users now expect an UI or an experience which is very persona based, which is they want to see how the system will interact with them and provide them the information they need to see, and only the information they need to see. SAP by nature has a tendency to provide too much information. So being able to personalize that information set and being able to provide them explicitly what do they need to see and only what they need to see, and being able to provide insights on the sentiments when there is interaction which is happening, that is what a persona based application or experience focused application needs to go with. Then obviously there is this new paradigm which is kind of slowly started evolving, is the industry cloud. What we mean by industry cloud is shared platforms between multiple supply chain recipients like your buyer and the seller, where the collaboration becomes a necessity and your application is an extension of their own application, and there is a collaborative sharing environment between the partners and the suppliers slash versus the actual person who is using, or the customer leveraging the SAP system in itself. So a portal phenomena, which is a collaborative environment between multitude of players, is something which is very much a necessity now. And as you would all know, data management is one of the biggest challenges with SAP, with so much data going in and out. So any kind of capabilities which can help with better data management, both from a security perspective as well as from effectively managing it, using intelligent tools perspective, is extremely useful. Also, HANA databases are quite costly, so any data management from that perspective also will definitely help. These would be the high level facets from an intelligent enterprise strategy perspective from an SAP ecosystem in specific. So I just wanted to give you guys some metrics on how the industry is going and where do we see the industry being in 2025, especially with SAP ecosystems. One of the key metrics which I wanted to focus on is 81% of the customers are currently planning for an IT automation solution. there is a fundamental fallacy which is kind of we are seeing with a lot of customers which we are running across, is they are building their automation roadmaps with a tool in mind but not a methodology or an approach in mind. Going with a tool based approach for rolling out your automation solution is a little bit dangerous, because you're kind of siloing yourself to the capabilities and the deficiencies of the tool in itself. As an organization, you should be focused more on building your automation freeway, so to speak, which is primarily centered around the capability of your organization to be able to take what is the best of breed tools and processes and methodologies and apply it in your organization to further augment and improve your key main differentiators, which is what makes you unique in the market space. A lot of the customers, when we come in, they would have already had, let's say, an RPA platform or something which they have already chosen, and now we have to work around that RPA platform and the capabilities of their aforesaid already investments which they have made. If your automation journey is currently just kicking off, one of the key things for you to look at is do not get boxed into a tool centric approach, which is to just to go in the market, buy a tool, implement it in the environment. It really does not work really well. The best way to approach this kind of a problem from an IT perspective is to look at a methodology and a process, and the process of building an automation track, and being able to build an automation track which is tool agnostic but focused on more the business goals which you are trying to realize with respect to automation is the way to go. And some of the other metrics we kind of talked about it here, being able to redeploy the code, which is kind of fundamentally dealing with self-healing and things like along those lines. 72% of the companies want to leverage data analytics to improve customer experience. Like I said, customer UI, especially in a B2C environment, is the big go-to item right now. We are seeing extensive movement on that space, especially with hybrids and things along those lines. So just to quickly recap again, autonomous digital enterprise primarily will have transcendent customer experience, which is customer would be able to do it by themselves without minimal help. It's plug and play kind of concept. Automation everywhere. So just doing a wordplay there. Pretty much try to automate as much as you can, and then only leave out the main value addition activities which require a human intervention. Purely from a technical development now, there is a fundamental automation possibility even with development. So that is something which can also help you reduce your development time. So a traditional old school way of doing a release cycle which takes extremely long time is a little bit outdated now. Now it is more along the lines of being able to redeploy the code which is already existing, or chopping and changing existing code so that you can reduce your development time. And data. So most of the data which is flowing through the system requires you to be able to apply AI and analytics to your data to look at predictive patterns. And the predictive patterns need to be in closed loop feedbacks, which require minimal user interaction, and also being able to leverage that data as an asset to be able to drive the appropriate business outcome which you want to arrive at, with an actionable insight which can either be system generated and it can act upon it, or it can be with a workflow mechanism where a business user is leveraging it. So obviously I have kind of talked about on how to go about building a platform which is primarily running by itself and empowering your business user to do it by themselves. There are different levers which can be kind of implemented to achieve this. So now we are moving in from the overall broad concept of a digital enterprise to actually how would we do it? What are the different levers which kind of can be applied? So one is RPA. A lot of the customers are already exposed extensively to this RPA platform. But putting an RPA plus an AI spin is what is necessary now. An RPA script, like in a traditional way, is kind of a little bit outdated. Digital assistants are the norm. every one of the tier 1 applications in by 2025 to 2030 will have their own digital assistant, which will follow by a persona based approach. Data science is primarily being able to take the data that you have, being able to provide data driven processes with minimal user interaction, and being able to propagate, manage, and disseminate that data effectively. Intelligence is a key word here because of the technology capabilities now. Intelligent apps are going to be the norm, and that is very much a necessity. So if your app does not think by itself, provide actionable insights by itself, cannot heal by itself, then you are not having the best in class apps now. You need to be able to introduce intelligence into the app. So the intelligence can be through guided procedures, or it can be through AI. And last but not least, self-service. uh, all the business users in this day and age, because the user fabric has kind of changed, they are more and more leaning towards provide me the information what I need, I will figure out how to do it better, so to speak, in my way. So a traditional standard operating procedure based model, etc., is not that effective anymore, because there is a lot of individualism which has crept into how applications will be leveraged in the future. So self-service is the way to go as well. So from an SAP perspective, these are some of the key aspects which we can do fairly immediately from an organization perspective to start with the journey of building a ADE. So auto incident troubleshooting, or self-guided procedure executions, or automatic data generation when the data does not end. Like a material master is there, a business user is trying to perform the function, the material needs to be extended to another location. Why can't that happen automated? Why does it need to go to a master data team to be able to do that? So things along those lines are very much feasible now. So those kind of things are what are expected to be introduced. There are a few other examples which are being highlighted here as well on the technology side, and those also can definitely be looked at. Like there are some minimal low end configuration activities which require IT engagement. So those activities can now be automated at the business level. This is quite a key slide, because this will help you kind of understand as an organization, where do you stack up? Like where are you in the maturity scale? From where are you starting, and where do you need to end up? We have kind of classified this into 5 levels. The most adaptive or cutting edge organizations have an innovation track of their own, an innovation budget, and innovation COE. Their applications think by itself, their user profiles, etc., are persona based. So a lot of the things which we kind of talked about in the prior slides are very applicable for a level 5 organization. Where if you are starting the journey right now, it will be more along the lines of you do some amount of automation, which is you implement a script, or you do an automated data load, things like that. And there is no formal adoption or evaluation process which you leverage, so which is the other extreme of level 1. And the level of automation which can be achieved from what we are seeing is almost between 30 to 40% in the industry right now. It will keep increasing based on how much ever the catalog kind of evolves. So if your productivity gains currently are an aspirational target of 20-30%, then I would say you are looking at a level 4 level of evolution. We recommend companies not to go from level 1 to level 5 overnight. That is quite a big philosophical jump, unless you are ready for organizational change management, as well as from a user maturity perspective, you are also evolved on that perspective. Otherwise, it is generally better to follow a methodology based approach where the maturity can slowly be baked in, because an automation roadmap fundamentally requires a organizational rebaselining on how your current IT landscape is managed, supported, and leveraged from a business perspective. So these are some of the main challenges a lot of our customers who are starting the journey kind of run across. So I will kind of highlight a few of these. We have run across this a lot, which is a siloed implementation, like RPA has been implemented for APAR process, something like that, but a broader context was not looked at. So that is a very common problem. So that's why when you follow a tool-centric approach, that's what primarily happens. You end up with a siloed implementation, and you have never looked at from a broader strategic level perspective. The second one is trying to figure out the ROI. There is no clear expectations from an ROI perspective when an automation kind of lever is implemented in your environment. All automations are tied to objective financial savings. If you do not have a financial target in mind, then you really don't have an automation plan. So always start with the financial number. Everything else is theory. Automation by definition requires you to save money on either better productivity or lower cost on TCO, etc. These are some of the steps which we recommend the customers to go through step by step on how they can get to that goal of which enterprise maturity scale they want to aspire for. I'm not going to go through the steps because it's a little bit more broader discussion than we have tried to simplify it as much as we can. I think in the next slides, we kind of want to give you an appetizer kind of view of what methodology can be applied for making this journey happen. All right, so let me just quickly go to the next slide here. So Sujoy, you want to go from here?
Yes. So as Sandy mentioned, one of the things that we've seen and as a recurring theme is going tool centric, and what that really means is that if we are to use tools, we don't have a repeatable methodology to get the automation. It's not that the tools are not important, but it's just one of the aspects of the entire service automation framework that we advocate to use for our customers, embarking on this automation journey. And what you're seeing on the slide there is basically the service automation framework that we use. This framework just provides a step-by-step approach on how organizations can digitize their automation service offering in a consistent and reliable method. And this can be, and also Sandy mentioned that this is truly tool agnostic. It's more of a process, a methodology. If you want to think about it, it's very analogous to something like the ITIL framework, where it doesn't matter what tool is used, could be ServiceNow or CA, but the ITIL process still is followed and in a consistent manner to be able to do the service management. And same way, this service automation framework is the methodology that we adopted to be able to bring to our customers and get them some structure into how they're bringing automation in their enterprise. Now, when you look at this service automation framework, it has 6 main building blocks, and it's divided in, if you want to think about it, there's the central piece of it, which has 3 blocks, and that is actually the heart of the framework, which is focused on mainly the design, and then the other 3, which is the automated deployment, service delivery automation, and serendipity management is more of the brains of which is focused on delivery of the automated service. And I'm going to cover each one of these in a little bit of detail so there's a better understanding into how this framework really fits in, and then we have a couple of examples that we'll walk through as well. So in the central part of this service automation framework is the users, and mainly because in order to ensure that the services meet or exceed the user expectations, we have to make sure that they are central to this model, and not only that, also understand how the user profile, which can be demographic as well as psychographic, and how that would drive the overall user interface as well. So that is the main part, is we are making this service automation framework user-centric. That is the first piece. We're moving away from tool-centric to user-centric, and then the pieces that are building around it. So the next part of the framework is the service design. So this is basically, this defines which service offering you're going to automate, and then what relevant support you need from either a digital interface as well as from the interaction perspective. The third building block, which is in the heart, that is mainly on the technology front of what technologies we are going to use. Is it going to be a portal? Is it going to be a mobile phone? Is it going to be both? Depending upon if it's a B2B, B2C application and how pervasive you want to make it. So that's the technology layer. And then the operational functional, which is focused on delivery, is the automated deployment, the process that a user will be using to start taking action on their own. And then followed by service delivery automation, which is, yes, the user can now take the action on his own, but are they going to have deviations in that service or ask for something different, and being able to cover for those activities with just the true service delivery automation, where they can take even alternate path to getting to the required action, and have the necessary insight provided in the tool to be able to do that. I can give you a really good example of that. If you talk about the service delivery automation, if most of you all have used Uber or Lyft, they give you the opportunity. You go ahead, you book a ride, you take the ride, you finish the ride, and it charges your credit card. However, you don't want it to be charged to that specific credit card, especially in one of the cases that I can talk about. I have a corporate card, I have a personal card, and sometimes I charge it incorrectly. There's a function right there to be able to change which card you were charged to. That's a good example of how you deviate from just the process within the automation to be able to get to that final goal that you're doing. So be able to cover for some scenarios that may not be obvious right from the start. And then last but not least is the serendipity management. That is mainly to be able to have a process where you're continuously looking at what you've automated and a way to improve and build upon that, and make that truly a part of the automation journey as well. It just doesn't end when the automation is complete. There should be a continual process to be able to look at the process, analyze the interactions that are being done. Obviously, in the digital fashion, we can do a lot of automated insights into that, and then come up with ideas where that can be improved. Sandy, next slide, please. So, of course, part of this discussion is geared towards how is it affected in the SAP world. But for us, the user experience, the service outcomes, the value and service operation are all a part of what we do day to day with any technology systems that we interact with. And the building blocks that Sandy talked about, all will fit in a manner that you're going to get the results and the output that you are expecting. And for that, you will see in the center of the screen where we are, looking at SAP holistically, looking at where we can, implement the service automation framework to get the experience that people are, not only just from a user experience standpoint, but also from a true automation standpoint. Can something truly be automated when somebody's making a request, and be able to handle that on their own, instead of going across the organizations to either get approvals or to be able to facilitate the process on their own. And we we have two examples here. One is a really simple one, but what's more important is to look at this actually where you'll see that line of trust, line of interaction, and line of automation. That's on the middle right part of the screen. And you basically what we want to show there is it is definitely user-centric. As I mentioned, you'll see the user actions and physical evidence. These are really important aspects, because what it really means is if somebody made a request for, and this example is for password reset, if somebody did make the was locked out, makes a request for the password to be changed, he or she has to get some sort of a confirmation either on your phone, or if they're locked out of the corporate account, obviously they can't get that confirmation on the email because they're locked out, they can't get it. But yes, can they get it on their phone? Is there an alternate email? Be able to give back the physical evidence back, and be able to establish a line of trust with your users. Very, very important as you're doing the activity of automation. And then moving into the technology interface, that's where that's the line of interacting between where the person makes the request and having the technology backbone to be able to do that. And truly, if you look at that technology interface, that is the area where the tools fit in. That's where your RPAs fit in. That's where your AIs fit in. And it's not that tools are not important, and we need those tools for the technology interfaces, but it's not the be all end all in the service automation process. And then beyond that is the line of automation where the process actually gets executed. You'll see on the functions is none, because this is just a very typical IT function that we do for password resets, but they could be true company functions that have to happen. Like one of the examples Sandy was talking about was automating AP and AR. If there truly has to be like an expense reimbursement, the company function is an approval, and you can make that efficient in the back-end systems to make it as automated as possible, using the tools like AI for validating your receipts against what the expense was. Things of those natures can make it very, very simple for get through the company functions of approval, for example. And then we have another example here. This is mainly on requesting a VM. This is a pretty common service catalog function that is used in a lot of IT environments. But the goal here is to move from the service catalog to truly an automated workflow. And then the way that is carried out is somebody can go to the ITSM tool, make a request for a VM, and then it goes through the approval process. But again, very important to understand that here the technology interface is the place where we have the tools fit in, the support processes, and the company functions are the ones that facilitate on the back end, making it very easy to provide the service back to the end user. All right, Sandy, you want to go to the next?
All right, so I think we're getting to the closing slide, guys, now. So just wanted to quickly recap. What we were discussing today was primarily how do you make your enterprise work autonomous? How do you make your enterprise intelligent? And obviously, there should be a method around the madness. We should not get siloed in based off a tool in mind, because we are talking about an enterprise, and enterprise has a lot of applications, a lot of tool sets, and we are thinking process and users first. So the process is what should drive the user experience, so to speak. So in order to drive and fit the right process or pick the right process, we should not be tool focused. So that's why we are suggesting a framework or a methodology where you primarily focus in on trying to get on how do you perceive the end state of your user experience to be like, and in order to reach that end state as an enterprise, what are the things that you need to automate? Obviously, the reason why we picked on SAP is because of the heavy business interaction that happens with an SAP application on the ERP side. And it is not generally a back-end system, right? Most of the SAP work which is happening is front-end with the business user live, and it is affecting day-to-day how your business operates and functions. So henceforth, it is very applicable for SAP environments to provide the user with the capability to do it by himself very effectively. And also from a technology perspective in this day and age, the system, whatever is the system which we end up choosing, has to be able to fix itself. in order for us to build a paradigm of being able to do it by yourself and fixing it by itself, we need a method behind the madness, and the method behind the madness cannot be tool centric. It has to be process and a methodology centric, which is catered and designed to explicitly meet your automation needs, and it cannot be generically defined. So that being the case, we recommend start with a methodology, build your automation track with the end state of how your user experience need to look like, and whatever the technology interfaces which would be needed to make this happen will automatically become an outcome of how to facilitate this journey, rather than taking a tool, leading with that, going with that journey through the tool, and then the tool becoming a limiting parameter in you being able to drive transformation across your environment. So just to provide final recap, industry, like I said, 80% of the human tasks are repetitive. So if you have worked in an SAP environment, you would clearly know what are the tasks which are repetitive and which ones require genuine human judgment and intelligence. So being able to identify those and being able to figure out a way to replace them, but however merging them with the expertise of new technology inventions which are in place with AI, etc., is what is necessary for complete ADE getting implemented for the digital age. I think that should be the final statement from our side. Sujoy, any closing comments?
Yeah, I think, Sandy, you've covered it really well. I mean, for us, is to really be able to look at the this journey of automation from a user centricity standpoint, but also have a repeatable methodology to be able to deploy this at the enterprise, because it's not just a once and done thing, right? You're gonna at the automation, it's a journey. We have to get on it, but having a methodology and to be able to do it in a repeatable fashion is just as valuable as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Sujoy. Amy, any closing comments? I think we are done here.
Perfect. Thank you both. Really great information. So I have just a couple questions. I'm just watching time, but what is the best area to start with automation for SAP?
Oh, really good question. So there are multitude of answers to that question. Based off your maturity scale is where you should pick the best area to start with automation for SAP. So if your maturity scale is quite high, start with the business. If your maturity scale is quite low, start with the back-end activities, which are more IT centric. To be honest, the best bang for the buck or the ROI and IT managers or the CIOs becoming well liked within an organization is more on the business end of the spectrum. But the business end of the spectrum requires a certain amount of ownership to be driven through the organization. So it's a little bit more harder thing to do, because there needs to be a journey roadmap which needs to be built collaboratively with each one of the business units. From an IT perspective, it's more technology layer focused, so it's a little bit more easier to implement. So based off your maturity is where you need to pick. Amy, any other questions? You mentioned
awesome. And then I think we have time for one more question. Can you provide how long does the automation journey take?
Excellent question. So first and foremost, a definition of a journey is that it does not end, correct? If I do a basic building block approach, the way I would envision it is 6 months should be adequate for you to go one level up in general. Okay, so a 2 to 3 year transformation roadmap will put you on the right path to be able to get to a automation framework based design which is repeatable, and you can pretty much enact it at a time's notice, so to speak, and help yourself in being able to leverage the new age technologies which are coming in every day, and being able to incorporate that and bring it into your environment. If you go with a short-term approach, I don't think that would be a right way to go about things. So it has to be very much a journey. There has to be an innovation track in every IT organization. So right now, the innovation track is part of a central job function, which is primarily like the CIO looks at it or the director looks at it, etc. It cannot be like that. So there needs to be an innovation track of its own with the innovation architects and enterprise architects driving that innovation journey forward. So generally 6 months is one building block is what I would say it takes.
Perfect. Okay, I think that does it for us today. Thank you everyone who joined. We hope you learned something, had a good takeaway from our webinar today. As I mentioned before, we are recording this session, so we will send the recording to you later today. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Amy. Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Bye.